Welcome. I'm your host, Marie Caldwell, and welcome to Hometown USA, brought to you by the Fayetteville Electric System. We're here at the Lincoln County Museum, and we'll be doing a tour of it. And I believe I have a co-host with me tonight, and I believe Gary Kendrick will be here. Gary, welcome.
Well, welcome to you, Marie. Welcome to the museum.
Isn't this wonderful? I love this outside. I just love the look of this.
Especially with me standing here.
Well, I love the look of the museum. And I love to go inside it, and I'm real anxious to get inside. I believe our guide for the evening will be Dr. Ferris Beasley, and he knows everything there is to know about the museum and more. So we'll be asking him some questions, and he'll show us around. And I know a lot of you probably have never even been down here to the Lincoln County Museum and Civic Center. You may have come to a function perhaps, but maybe not to actually tour the museum and see what all we have here. So that's what our plans are tonight, is to go through the museum.
Is anything in your plans about letting me say anything tonight?
Go ahead.
I'm not just window dressing, you know. I have a serious role on this show.
Okay, so what would you like to learn from the museum?
Well, I'd like to learn all about the museum, and I bet a lot of people in Lincoln County don't know a lot about our museum. I think it'll be a great evening. I wish you would have dressed up a little better to look like me, but that's okay. Maybe the next time.
Some of us have to work for a living.
Let's go inside.
Let's go inside
and find Dr. Beasley.
Let's go through this wonderful gate here, through the courtyard. This is so beautiful, especially with the lights. And of course, we'll have the fountain here, and the seats where you can sit and have a little break,
it's so
relax.
Quiet. And it is peaceful. It is. Boy, this has been a long walk to get to the entrance. Let's stop and look at the fountain. This is
a really pretty fountain. You may notice that this looks like iris.
You know, it does look
wrought
just
iron.
like iris.
And this is in memory of the Wrights. You want to read the names here?
I'll try.
Okay.
Grady and Eileen, Albert, Allie Mae, Elizabeth, and Sue, and I can't read the bottom.
And Bill and Sam.
Bill and Sam.
So this is in memory of the Wrights.
A lot of the Wrights.
And this actually is the James D. Buchanan Memorial Garden. Mr. Buchanan did an awful lot of volunteer work here at the museum. He really loved the museum.
How do you know all that?
I just know that.
You are much more intelligent than people give you.
He was a really great person, and I think that's great that they named the garden in his honor.
Me too. Now let's talk to a real.
Here's Dr. Beasley now.
You're right. Here he comes.
Well, hello.
Oh,
Marie.
nice to see you.
Very nice to have you all here.
It's our pleasure.
We're just tickled to death that you've chosen this time to visit the Lincoln County Museum and Civic Center. We're really excited about it because we like to show it to folks, and better than that, we know you're going to show it to a lot of other folks.
Yes, we are.
And encourage them, hopefully, to come and visit the museum. And we're not going to show you everything in this museum. We're going to keep some secrets so that the folks will be inspired to come and find out what some of these hidden things really are. We got some really neat things.
Okay,
Let me tell you a little bit about this building.
All right.
This was the old Borden plant that was built in 1927. And that's kind of a significant time frame in our history because that was the middle of the Great Depression. Lincoln County was basically an agrarian, agricultural community, and they were having a tough time. Farmers had very little market for their products. It was probably 85% agriculturally oriented, and times were tough. Mm-hmm. Borden decided to build a buttermilk plant in Fayetteville, Lincoln County, and this was the first time they had sent a plant south. You know, the Mason-Dixon line was a real invisible line that held the South back, and we had no industry to speak of. Not only was it Borden's first plant, supposedly, to come south, but it was about the first significant plant from northern industrial companies to send anything to the south. So it was a big plus. And we were real fortunate that they picked Lincoln County because it picked our economy up. When my senior partner came to practice here in 1941, there were 550 grade B dairies in the county supplying milk for this plant. So it had a tremendous impetus to stimulate the agriculture economy.
Okay. Now, do you know how many employees there were when Borden opened up their doors?
I really don't. I'd say it would probably take 50 to 100 people to supply this plant.
I'm sure there are probably some people out there that maybe worked here, or maybe their parents worked here, that have some memories of the Borden plant.
I'm sure they do. There's some great pictures in here. This plant was not only involved in producing butter from the milk that came from the dairy cows in the community. In the war, it served a really significant role. This high bay area, which we're going to be walking into, if you look inside, it's going to be really high, and apparently this was where the milk was received, the butter was made. But apparently they had drying racks up high with all this sunlight coming in these windows here that dried milk, dried lemons, and dried eggs. And the dried milk, dried lemons, and dried eggs were sent across the ocean to our soldiers. You know, we were fighting 2 world wars at the same time, and it took a lot of feed for those soldiers. And milk is over 90% water, so to take the water out and send it dry, it didn't spoil, and you could ship it, you know, much easier. So that's kind of neat.
So Fayetteville and Lincoln County did something in the war effort that probably a lot of people don't realize.
Absolutely. You know, milk and eggs were basic nutrients for fighting men. And people ask why lemons. Well, you know, lemons, citrus fruits that supply vitamin C that prevent scurvy.
Right.
They needed vitamins. You know, the old, if you go back in the history of shipping, the sailors died from scurvy because they didn't have citrus fruit, so this was important. It's kind of neat.
Oh, well, that's a real interesting story.
Well, it is, and I appreciate that story, and I'm sure our viewers will. But actually, in 1927, Marie was already 10 years old and knew all about the Borden plant.
Exactly, right. The plant functioned till 1967, and that's when it closed. But it certainly served its purpose for many, many years. And then it's kind of ironic, I guess, that a historical building and industry like this would come under the influence of Mr. and Ms. William R. Carter, and this building was donated to the county for a museum, and that's pretty neat.
It was a great gift from the Carters.
It really was, yeah. And being a museum, is it automatically on the National Register of Historic Places, or is that because it was turned into a museum, or because of Borden?
I think it's because of the age of the building, the symbolism of the industry at the time frame it was in, and then it became, and what a great building to turn into a museum. It was almost made for a museum.
That's true.
On the left, as you look back here, are the business offices and meeting rooms of the museum, and then on the right is the auditorium and the little reception area over there, which we'll circle and see. And we're going to come into what's called the High Bay area, and you'll see some of the first exhibits in here.
Okay, are we ready to go inside now?
Can we go inside?
Right.
We're excited.
Okay.
Come in. We're excited about finding out more.
Okay, so this is the Bay area,
This is
right?
the Bay area, the very high ceilings where this industrial process took place. We might look at the picture right here on the wall. This is rather symbolic. These are the folks that donated this building to the museum, Mr. and Mrs. William R. Carter. And what a great legacy they've left for all of us, with a great, neat building for the museum and all the things that have been added since then. Why, you know, we've got to be grateful for their donation.
We maybe can't see this on the air, but we maybe can't get close enough. There's some books down here with some photos. What is that?
These are scrapbooks. There's scrapbooks all over this place of everything. That's a scrapbook of newspaper articles. If I look down there, everybody knows everybody, and it's amazing how people tie into this. And when people come through the museum, they'll say, "Oh, my daddy had one of these," you know. And I knew he told me about how this works. So there are lots of surprises in here. This area around here on the left is rather beautiful, I think. This was a mural that was done by Sandy Trenum. The secret of this place is the tremendous number of volunteers and people that come in here and work for nothing. We don't have any paid employees in this place on our staff, but so many people come in and get enthused about it and want to do something to help. And there are people that put these flowers in, keep them up. There are people that plant flowers out in the courtyard out there. They change them seasonally, and this is kind of neat, I think.
What about the rocks here, Dr. Beasley? Is that any significance to those rocks? I mean, they almost look like they're from the Stone Bridge.
They are. Yeah, these rocks, you guessed exactly right.
What a great question.
Yeah.
You are better than
They're
anybody gives you credit
Bridge.
for.
And you know, I don't know everything that's from everything in here, but I'll do my best, and we'll just look at the signs together and read some of them.
Okay, now what about the Liberty Bell? I'm sure that's not the original. Do we know any?
Okay, that bell came from the Lloyd's Chapel, Cumberland Presbyterian Church, and I bet you don't know where Lloyd's Chapel is.
No.
It's between Kelsa and Crystal Ridge. And, you know, there's no telling how old that bell is. I'm sure if we read long enough, we'd get the date on it. But that's pretty neat for them to donate something like this.
It is, and it's still in good shape.
It's in excellent condition. Yeah, it kind of looks like the Liberty Bell.
It kind of does, yeah. Now this is a wonderful area here, Dr. Beasley. I'm sure there's some history and a story behind this little bar here.
There sure is. This area was kind of donated by the Jack Daniel Distillery. It's the backdrop here is from an old saloon or bar. The picture of it is right up there on top. This is what I believe was known as the White Rabbit Saloon in Lynchburg. I don't know whether there's still a symbolic presence of that up there still or not, but this is some of the utensils that came from there, the backdrop. This right here is kind of neat. This is a marble table from the old McKinney drugstore, which is a landmark for many years in Fayetteville, right on the corner of the square where Bill Newman's office is right now.
No, you mentioned the White Rabbit Saloon. They still call it, when you go through the visitor center at the distillery after the tour, the White Rabbit Saloon. So.
But this is really a nice display.
I wouldn't mind having this in my house.
Oh yeah, that's neat. Yeah.
No, I hope it doesn't
get
stolen.
Here's an old clock from John Wright's Jewelers, which is one of the truly old businesses in town. These pianos, this is a player piano right over here that has been donated. So many family heirlooms have found their place in this museum. And that's pretty neat, you know, that people would share things like this.
It is.
You know, what a great place for so many different people to get to see these things now. And as you go through here, you're going to see some. I think this is a great tribute to the generosity of people, because so many people have shared and given of their family heirlooms to make this thing go.
Well, and just, I'm sorry to interrupt, but talking about what a great place this is, and I've mentioned this before, but of course I'm not from Lincoln County, but so a lot of it doesn't have any significance to me. But my son, who's about 10, and I'll mention his name, I always have to mention Jordan's name. Yeah, we've been through here a couple times. He just loves coming through the museum. He just finds it fascinating.
Young people are really touched by it because it goes so far back. You know, this is back about 200 years, and they're touched by it. And middle-aged people, very old people, all have a tie to this thing because they see things that ties them to a point of their history. This picture right here is Mr. James Buchanan. He's one of the kind of the founding fathers of this museum, and he had a lot to do with the planning and a lot of the donation of some of the really neat things in here, like particularly the agricultural exhibits. He was real strong in that. One of the neat things about this museum is that it's a progressive museum. It's changing and being added to all the time. Good example is right here. Just in the last 2 weeks, we've been blessed by the Slate family. This is Peggy Slate. And they have brought us a working printing press from their former business in Huntsville. And this is really something special. And they are periodically going to be here on site to demonstrate this thing. It's still operating, and we're just going to let her take over and tell us what this is all about. Okay, Peggy, explain some of the pieces here. Tell us what they do.
Okay, this right here is a punch machine, like you would do a three-ring punch binder, blank paper that you needed to fit the binder.
Oh, okay.
You could, it can be dangerous, but you could put your paper in there, and with the foot pedal, it would go through at least about 50 sheets of paper at a time.
Oh, okay.
And then this is a book press over here, and what they did, this for one thing they could do, they could use it for when they go leaf things a long time ago. And this is a California job case with handset type in it. And this is called a stick. And you start with this. And if you're going to set my name, you'd pick a P up here.
Now, does it have to be upside down? Or?
It has to be upside down. And you hold it just like this. And then you pick up the P-E. G, Y. And then you'd have to put a spacer between it to put the word Slate in it. And then when you get through, you got to go back and after you print it, you got to go back and you got to distribute it.
To put the letters back in the right compartments?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you get them mixed up, you're in trouble for the next job.
What are these?
Okay, this is leads, and these are slugs over here. It takes 3 leads to make a slug, which is 6 points. And you're printing in points and picas.
Okay.
It takes 72 points to make 12 picas.
How do you use these in the printing?
Okay, after you set a line of type, and I can show you if you want to see this form right here on the press. It's heavy because it's all. Okay. Marie, this is a form I presetted Monday to print Saturday, and it says, and you're reading bottom side upwards, thank you for visiting the Fayetteville Lincoln County Museum and host of Christmas Past 2001. And then we put down here that it was printed by the museum print shop.
Well, Peggy,
on an 1800-year-old. You know, it was in the 1800s that this was done.
You read better upside down than Marie reads right side up. I'm very impressed with that. I guess that's from being in the business.
She knows what she's doing.
Okay,
That's
then
right.
after this, you know, they started the linotype machines, which is a solid lead of type. And then after that, they went to the computers, which is a cold phonotype, the way they're setting it now. It's a whole lot quicker. I don't think it's too much prettier. Here is, well, let me just print you.
That'd be great.
You want me to?
I'll just print you one.
Now, will it print since you took that out?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Marie, you're becoming
just-
an expert now. Boy, I am impressed. Quick learner. I was going to say the same thing, but I thought you might want to bring that up. But that is a key ingredient of this machine, isn't it?
It also has a numbered machine on it that counts how many we're printing, and we hope to get a number of how many people go through the museum.
Oh, okay.
And picks up one of these.
Peggy, how old is this machine right here, would you estimate?
Well, we found a date on the motor that dates back to 1910. It's a friction-fed motor. And the press, we weren't real sure, but we found an 18 and never could make out what the rest of the date on it was.
So it's old.
It's old. Almost as old as I am.
I thought you were going to say almost as old as Marie.
Enough with the age
Okay,
jokes.
no more, for the rest of this show, no more jokes about you and the museum being the same age.
So
Well,
see,
isn't
it's
that
still, you can
pretty?
and these are copper plates here. They're mounted on wood, and if you'll get down in it like this.
Okay. Well, this would be something to keep. This would be something well worth having just because it came off of this printing machine.
Maybe,
If people knew that.
Maybe we could have one. Peggy
You
might give us
can. I would
one.
love for you to have
Oh,
one.
that's wonderful.
Here is a copper where the nickel was printed.
Oh, okay. You can see,
You can see the impression
yeah,
there.
his head.
And this is a house with trees around it, and it's in copper.
Now, who makes these? I mean, how do you get these? Are these?
Well, these came with the print shop.
Okay.
I bought it out of and I don't even remember his name, a gentleman's garage when I first went in business in 1974. And I have used it the whole time. One thing I like it, this is what I had in high school. And so it's always been kind of my pet peeve, you know. So when we sold our business, Metro Printing, we did not sell this because we were anticipating doing this with it at that time. And
Well, this is just wonderful that you've donated this to the museum, and the fact that you come up here and show how to use it. That's wonderful.
And you'll also notice that,
Whoop.
that this
She's
is a
going around.
workstone. Oops.
This top is works.
It's a marble workstone. It took 4 men to lift it up here.
Well,
You can
I
see it's
guess.
well worn.
Yes, and how thick it is. Probably.
Peggy, I have one more question before we have to move on.
All right.
Can you print money out of this?
Well, I don't know. Once I had a request to print some money for a rifle like that, so I called Montgomery because we were in Alabama and asked them if I could do a dummy, you know, to print for a rifle. And they said, well, it's against the law to have a rifle in the state of Alabama. It's also against the law to print money. He says, you can print it, they better not try to spend it.
I guess that answers my question. Should we move on?
Let's go to the next exhibit if we're ready.
I wanted to make a note too.
Okay.
This is printed on what they call aged colored parched tone. It's really an imitation parched tone, but you can tell that it has the resemblance.
Yeah, I don't know if you can get a good
Can you get that done?
a good clean shot of this, but it's a creamy colored paper, and it's
Called aged parched tone.
And it's a little thicker
and
than-
it's a 60-pound sheet, whereas your copy paper usually is a 20-pound sheet.
Well, Peggy, we really appreciate the education, and of course, I'm sure the museum, I know, appreciates the donation.
Well, I
It
was
was interesting.
glad to do it. I think it is too. And one reason we wanted to donate it was hopefully some school groups will come through and get an idea how their school books are printed.
Oh, how neat! Yeah.
There we go. Should we go?
I know.
One of the neat things about the quality of the museum that we have here is that it is of such a high quality that it draws lots of interesting things. And I'm not just bragging when I say this is a quality museum. There's not anything like this museum in any county seat town anywhere around us in Middle Tennessee. This is a fact. You're going to see some other things as we go through later on. But a good example of this is the printing press that we were able to get donated, because these folks came in here, saw what a quality place this was, got excited about it, and wanted their printing press to have its permanent home here in this place. And many times we draw working exhibits. For instance, this next young lady, who's Carol Runyon, is going to demonstrate the spinning wheel. And we draw these working exhibits because, here again, people know this is a quality place and it's a great place to show their wares off. So she's happy to come here, and we're certainly happy to have her. She's going to be here for Christmas past this coming weekend, and maybe come back at other opportune times.
Good.
And young people that have never seen anything like that are just really excited to see something. Carol, it's yours.
Well, that's one of the things that I particularly enjoy, is showing the children how an old spinning wheel like this can still work, and how people used to really labor to get a garment. I'm going to show you here. This is called a walking wheel or a high wheel, and the reason it's called that is because you have to continually walk with this.
Now, what is this? What is this?
This is some sheep's wool. It's from the breed called Cordell. Here we go. Get a little speed going on this.
Okay, so what you're doing? This is making the
It's making yarn.
yarn here. Okay.
We're spinning some yarn. It takes a lot of momentum to get this wheel going, which is why the difference between the size of the wheel and the smallness of the spindle here, and this is where our little pulley goes. So there's quite a difference. This outspins many modern wheels. Now what I'm hoping to spin here is enough yarn to make my husband a pair of socks. He always teases me that we have lots of yarn, but he doesn't have enough socks.
So you just keep spinning and spinning, and it just keeps going on the.
And then I make it go back, and then I wind it on.
Okay, and I noticed when it breaks, you just pull it back and you kind of mix it in with what you still have in your hand to keep it going?
That's right. We'll have something like staples, like Velcro, and it wants to adhere to it. So it's really not difficult at all. Of course, you can spin just about anything on this wheel, and often people around here spin cotton on it as well.
Does this have a hole or an eye here? Is that how it's going in? And
No, it spins off the tip right here. So I spin it off the tip, and then I wind it on. And that's pretty simple to do.
Well, I guess for you maybe, but for the rest of us who are not familiar with this kind of a spinning wheel or any kind of spinning wheel, it's kind of amazing to me to watch you do that.
Well, I wanted to show you here the difference between this old high wheel and this is a contemporary wheel. This is a spindle, the same as the high wheel, but it's a contemporary wheel. We treadle it at the bottom so that we get much faster action on this rather than turning it by hand.
Well, it seems like to me you're working this one with your foot. You were working this one with your arm. You get a pretty good workout when you do this.
That's true, we do. What I'm spinning here is a combination of sheep's wool and some Angora rabbit wool. I raise my own Angora rabbits, and I like to spin their wool. It's very warm.
Now, how do you get this to be so uniform? I mean, you're pulling it out, but it looks like...
It is very uniform. And you just develop, I guess, a knack. I know from spinning this for quite a while that there's a certain diameter I want. And I try to keep a consistent diameter in the yarn. Of course, my work gets done much faster with this wheel than with the old high wheel.
Well, I can see it is going a lot faster. How old is this wheel?
My husband makes this wheel.
Oh, so, okay.
Yes, so I always have new ones to play with.
Well, now, is this his own design, or this is...
This is his own design.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty interesting, isn't it?
It is.
We were just saying how you get a good workout. If you work here for a while and then you move over to this one. She doesn't need to buy all that expensive equipment on TV they advertise.
So she was using her leg to... That's
To
good for
treadle it.
good for the calves.
And then you can twist it on itself and ply it, and you'll have a nice yarn.
And I thought she had dyed this wool before she started. You see the brown color?
Right, yeah.
That's the natural color came off of that breed of sheep.
Look at
I've never
this.
seen a breed of sheep that's brown. And what breed is that?
This is a Cordell.
Cordell.
And in the Cordell
It's
breed,
soft.
you'll see some different colors.
You think you can make my wife a sweater for Christmas present?
No, by Christmas, no. We'll have to work on that. Maybe a scarf.
Or a pair of socks. That's what she's doing for her husband.
Or maybe one sock. One sock this year, I'll get her one sock, matching one next year.
Well, since we're standing here, Dr. Beasley, tell me a little bit about this quilt that's back here. Do you know anything about
you might
this?
have put him on the spot there, Marie.
I think you did. Placard says this is the 1986 Boones Hill Homecoming Quilt. So that was kind of an anniversary of the Boones Hill community down there. And I'm sure lots of different women in the community each made one of those blocks, and they put it together, and it even has that Peggy Bellows, our president's name, is up there. She was the vice president of the Boone Hill group that did that. So again, handiwork.
And I'm sure this is all by hand. This
Oh, yeah.
this is not machine stitched.
Oh,
These
absolutely
are
not. That's all handwork. And of course, quilt making has been here since pioneer days.
No way if that was hand or machine made would it be in this museum, Marie.
Did you notice that? I guess these
Of course
are
I did.
the names that are on each square. I guess are the ladies that
Exactly.
stitched each square.
These aims of work. Her husband's got a flag display that you'll see in just a minute. Miss Thornton, I know all these names.
Well, let's go. That's a gorgeous quilt.
It's lovely. It is lovely.
Okay, we're ready to go to another exhibit.
Let's move. We want to thank Carol Runyon for providing this spinning wheel display for us and spinning some actual wool and yarn for us. And she's going to be doing this again at the Christmas Pass this weekend, and we'll come back from time to time, so we're really excited about it. Carol, thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Now tell me, this is of course the Stone Bridge, which is no longer here.
No, but that's one of the better pictures of it. This is by Canon and made in '78. I don't know exactly who that is, but that's a really nice picture.
Okay.
walk
Here's
a
one
little
of the
bit.
old staircases, of course, that was used when Borden was obviously very active, and it went up. Apparently, the men went up there to do something in the butter making process.
Wow.
We're coming to the end of the High Bay area, and in this area, you just see some very nice exhibits of antique furniture. This is what you used to sit in the drugstores, with the old Coke glasses.
I'll have to believe you on that one.
And my wife is still mad at me today for not picking up some of these when we had an opportunity in Virginia several years ago, because these are classic.
This is
drugstore type
ice cream table and
I
chairs.
think that's what you call it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And is this what is this here, Dr. Beasley?
That's a candelabra that somebody's donated. I don't know exactly who. I really don't. But we've
Okay.
got,
And
That's a fern. That's a
an
fern. Don't be asking Dr. Beasley what that is.
an old mantle here, an old wooden mantle.
old mantle, which we decorated for Christmas, obviously.
Why don't you sit there and rock for a while and take it easy?
This is nice.
And I'm sure this is a Victrola.
An old Victrola, another one over here with the horn, I think they call that.
And we have
Really
another.
old piano, and that's a picture of one of Fayetteville Lincoln County's old bands there. Some of those names are still around here. Bird Douglas, Sarah Bird Douglas' father is in there. Rob Smith, he ran a country store there in the middle of Kelsa. Eastlick, that's an old Kelsa name.
And Bird Douglas, you mentioned
Right,
that. Yeah.
here's a famous guitar, guitar.
Is it a
violin.
Stradivarius?
No.
It was, that thing was in a fire and was redone.
That's a Lincolnbarius.
Right, redone by Roy Jones.
Roy Jones from, well, we know Roy, don't we?
From Fayetteville Lumber and Supply? Is that Roy Jones?
I'd say that's who it is. There's a.
And this came
organ.
from Sarah Bird Posey's home.
And Lee Morgan, I think it was in memory of Sarah Bird. Some aerial shots of different plants. Fayetteville, the manor looks like over there.
Well, we still have a
Look at this.
excuse me. We still have a lot to do, don't we?
We do. I mean, we just scratched the surface
We
here.
have. We probably won't be able to finish all this in one show.
We're just getting started.
Okay, well, let's go into the next exhibit.
Okay, let's come right through here. This is our kind of our, I guess, main museum area where we have all the periods kind of represented. We've got a lot of highlights in this museum, and certainly this is one of our highlights. This is the Frank B. Kelsa Naval Exhibit. Admiral Kelsa was a Lincoln County native, born and raised in our county, educated in our school system, went to the Naval Academy, and ended up holding the highest rank that can be held by a naval officer, Commander-in-Chief of Naval Operations. The Smithsonian Institute wanted this exhibit, and he had an opportunity to not only give it to them, but to several other museums that wanted it. He chose to bring it home to Lincoln County. And that's pretty special.
It is pretty special.
Shows how he loved his community, and certainly added
his
a highlight.
roots.
Oh yeah, but he's famous man. He's got pictures over here on the wall with Queen Elizabeth, Margaret Thatcher, both President Bushes, Colin Powell, and then all of these trophies and exhibits were given to him by heads of foreign countries, and he's got some really nice things here.
You know, one picture you
That's
failed.
his. Yeah, excuse me.
I'm sorry. You might want to talk about his portrait.
That's his portrait over there. He's a very handsome man. Certainly, of course, an outstanding leader to have attained the rank he did. There's his full uniform there with all of his medals. Just lots of things to say.
One picture you failed to mention, Dr. Beasley, with all the other famous pictures, they won't be able to pick it up on the camera, but if they come see it, there is a picture taken in Lincoln County when the Admiral Frank Kelso Highway was dedicated, and it is a group picture of the people attending that, and Marie, you might want to check a little later, but I am in that picture. So this is a very famous wall. I'm seriously.
He
in
would
that
just
picture.
mention
I was
that.
there.
Yeah, naturally, he would want
I just
everybody to know
thought I'd
that.
throw that in as an interesting tidbit for the show.
I think it's interesting that with everything he has here, that he would give this up. You know, this is a part of him and a part of his life, and for him to give it to us here in Lincoln County is such an unselfish
Well,
act.
especially if like the Smithsonian wanted it.
Right. Now, I notice we'll move from Admiral Kelsa over here to an exhibit. You know, Dr. Beasley, this looks almost like a home,
Log home, maybe?
a log home.
For sure, it's a log cabin, circa about 1810 from the Childers estate, and it's complete with all the cooking utensils of that time. This is a kitchen of the 1800s. And one of the neat things about this fireplace, it's got an actual fireplace that was built inside this cabin after it was set up by John and Myrtle Cathy. John Cathy, there's no telling how many rock houses he has built in Fayetteville and Lincoln County. The beautiful rock work on the gas company, that's his. This rock work that came out of a rock fence by James Clayton, but John and Myrtle Cathy spent his lifetime building rock walls. He built a well house for me at my house, and he was an artist.
There's all sorts of interesting kitchen utensils here and things that a lady from the past would have used in her kitchen, and I just kind of shudder at some of the things to know that there's no electricity.
Well,
There's
that was
no
my question. I was going to ask Dr. Beasley in this 1800 log kitchen where the microwave is.
Right.
There probably is not a microwave.
You won't find the microwave.
So my wife surely wouldn't be able to prepare any food in this kitchen.
Well, let me ask you one thing as we go by here. What's on top of the chimney, Dr. Beasley?
Top of the chimney looks like a bottle, Tip Top Tavern, from the Stagecoach Inn. It's now the Tiger Shop.
Oh, okay.
That was the
That was the
Stagecoach?
Stagecoach Inn?
Yeah.
Where the Tigress is now was the Stagecoach Inn?
Right. And you never know what you're going to find as you walk around this exhibit. There's just so many little individual items that tie to somebody into something in the past.
Well, we have left the log house and log kitchen, and of course in that kitchen probably breakfast was prepared for the children. And after they finished breakfast, where would they go? They would go to the school. And we are now at the old school room, I guess, that Dr. Beasley can tell us a little bit more about.
It's probably a typical one-room schoolhouse. And of course the teacher was teaching probably 6 grades at the same time. Here's the little desk, the books, and these are real old, authentic books. Her attire, of course, with the time. The old pot-bellied stove, somebody had to bring wood and coal. The children usually took turns doing that. And this is a pretty complete one-room schoolhouse of the period.
And they probably had children of various ages in this one-room schoolhouse.
Exactly.
Now this is a very interesting exhibit here, Dr. Beasley. We have books and we have bottles and we have merchandise and then we have mail.
This is an old general mercantile store, as the sign says over there, with combination post office. A lot of the little country stores also served as the post office, so it served 2 purposes. But it's got stocks of some of the things they're sold. There's some cod liver oil. I guess if you look long enough, you probably find some castor oil, mineral oil. These are some of the old ledgers from some businesses in town. Old scales.
I think this is interesting. The Montgomery Ward catalog, 1894, and the old 1902 edition of the Sears Roebuck catalog. Can't find those catalogs anymore.
No, you can't buy anything for those prices anymore either.
That's for sure.
That's true.
There's a typical dress of the period. Old washing machine back there. Of course, the mail slots up there on the wall.
Is that a camera?
A real old box
camera?
Yeah, that's where you drop the hood over the guy, you know, so he could get the light out and be able to see his image.
And you had to stand there and sit there for such a long time and smile so everybody looked frozen.
And you had to be very still in those days. Very slow cameras.
While we're walking, let's make another stop here around the corner. It appears that there's a very interesting exhibit.
Well, it looks like it's another log cabin.
Right. We left the 1800s kitchen in the log cabin that we just passed, and now we're in the 1900s kitchen, which obviously is a little bit of an upgrade. Still no microwave, though.
Darn.
A little bit of an improved stove, not the open stove as we saw before. Old canning utensils up there, old irons. It's just amazing how complete these exhibits are because so many people have been generous enough to give us each one of these individual items, and they just add up and make a neat exhibit.
Now that one item in the corner, it looks like a refrigerator, but in 1902 or 1910, that would not be a refrigerator, would it? Wouldn't it not be a?
They called it a coolerator or an ice box. That one's called a coolerator, and it says 1900, given by Bill Fitzgerald, who used to run Yearwood Tractor Company.
So you know what they would have to do, Marie, is bring ice and put it in there and keep the food cold until you could put it in the microwave.
Gary, you mentioned ice box. This is the real authentic ice box, which is simply just a wooden frame, a little piece of metal to hold the ice, and the block of ice that they bought at the ice house on Sunday afternoon after church was brought home, put in there with those ice tongs right there, and then the butter, milk, so forth was put on top of that. Of course, that ice didn't last long, and the next day they probably had to get another one.
And is this that we're looking at now, what is that?
That's a butter churn. The milk was poured in there. That thing was cranked till the milk clabbered and formed butter.
And that's
Walking by this area reminds me of one of my favorite times of the year. And I hope I'm correct, but it does remind me of the Lincoln County Fair. Am I correct, Dr. Beasley?
Exactly. And of course, that's one of the top tourist attractions of Fayetteville, Lincoln County. And this is a pretty complete exhibit, even down to a real racing sulky with racing silks. That came from James Ray Golden, who is still racing horses. So lots of scrapbooks here going way back in the fair history, and a real complete exhibit. Walking horses over here on this side, Mr. Frank Rambo Motor Company, had 2 world champion walking horses. There are pictures of them over there.
What are those uniforms
Those are
back there?
high school band uniforms from the old Lincoln County Central High School. And they look like they've got a little bit of history behind them as far as age.
Now, Dr. Beasley, this is another interesting exhibit that really, I guess, brings us close to home with the military, all of the uniforms and everything we have here. And this is an interesting weapon here.
That's a captured Japanese machine gun that was brought back from the Pacific Campaign in World War II by Chris Patrick. Then we have all kinds of uniforms. Most of these are World War II vintage. We have some World War I helmets up there. Everything. There are Marine Corps officer uniforms, Navy uniforms, regular Army uniforms. Pretty complete history of a couple of wars.
Now, Dr. Beasley, all the uniforms and the helmets we looked at, were most of those worn by Lincoln Countyans?
Yes, they were given by Lincoln County citizens, so they were brought back from the war. Real interesting flag exhibit up there. These flags were made by Jim Ainsworth. They are flags of the different Confederate contingents in the war. This collection is also in the Smithsonian Institute, and he copied those flags even down to the numbers of stitches.
Wow. Now, I know this exhibit is something that's near and dear to you, Dr. Beasley.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of special exhibits already, and this one, to me, is extra special. This is an agricultural exhibit. And surprisingly enough, this is the second largest agricultural exhibit in the state of Tennessee.
Is that right?
The only one bigger is at the Capitol in Nashville at Ellington Agricultural Center. So this is something to really be proud of. 2 antique tractors to start with. This is an old John Deere D. That's a 1923 Fordson over there with a turning plow between the 2 wheels that flop the dirt over. These 2 machines right here are kind of special to me because I actually helped run one of those thrashers my cousin and I did for 2 summers. That's where you took the standing wheat, you cut it with this machine right here, went into the wheat field. This sickle mower right here cut it. It fell over onto that running belt, which was running continuously. It fed the wheat up into that belt, went over there, and it bundled it, tied a string around it, and dropped it out. Then you went through the field picking up those bundles and shocking the wheat. You've seen pictures of shocks of wheat. Then, some few weeks later, you brought the thrashing machine in, and this was a neat time of the year when you did this because 4 or 5 farmers would get together with their teams and bring the wheat in, and everybody had to work together because it was a really big job, a lot of hand labor. And the best part of it was dinner time, when the farm wives put on their best recipes, and you talk about a feast. It was a feast. So this is pretty neat.
Well, I bet after that feast, after dinner time, there was probably something that most of the people needed to use. And I think I've spotted something in the corner that I'd like for us to see. I think everybody will like this.
Well, let's go back here and see what it is. I bet Dr. Beasley knows what this is.
Well, he might, but I bet I do too.
Well, why don't you tell us then? You tell us.
I will tell you about it. I'll try my best. I know many people know what an outhouse is and have seen outhouses, and they're pretty basic. But what we have here in the corner is one of those deluxe models.
Cadillac.
The Cadillac of outhouses. This is what we call back in my day as a two-holer.
Back in your day.
Back in my day. We got one on the left for shorter people, and then the one on the right is for someone who's got a little longer legs. And underneath the holes is just, it's sand. So you'd sit there or do whatever you need to do. Then you'd sprinkle, after you finish, there'd be a bucket of lime that you'd drop down in the hole to kind of take away the aroma.
Sanitized it.
Now tell me. Oh, you're fixing to go into that. Okay, tell me the rest of it.
Because if you're in the two-holer, you've got some reading material. We've got the old Sears catalog, and actually I know that's not for reading. It's back in those days, I guess, toilet paper wasn't invented yet, so they used the old Sears catalog, and I'm really impressed with this.
Gary got it right. He knew about it.
I think he was coached, though.
No. I'm a history buff.
Well, now, Dr. Beasley, this is kind of a hidden area over here that's behind this big thresher, but I noticed some plaques that are on the wall. Do you want to tell us about those?
Yeah, this is unique. You know, when our new high school was built and the old Central High School was decommissioned, then they had no place to go with a lot of their trophies, a lot of their plaques. These are the FFA plaques that school had collected over the years. And you might recognize some of the folks in their pictures that are on the wall here.
Well, I guess they go back several years too, don't they? A lot of these trophies.
I saw a 61. There's a 1959, 66. So they're pretty old. But as Dr. Beasley mentioned, this wall here with some pictures is extremely interesting. That one that Don is showing us right now, and it was quite an honor from what Dr. Beasley told me, is the Tennessee State Farmer of the Year in 1967 and the Tennessee Dairy Farmer. In case people can't recognize that, that is, of course, the picture says Billy Newman, but we know him as Dr. Bill Newman. 1967, and I know, Marie, you mentioned, how could Bill Newman get so ugly in such a short period of time? Because he was a good-looking young man back in 1967. Now, tell us about the one right here, though.
Well, now, I think that is someone that everyone else might recognize, too, and that's Randy DeLap.
But you know what I really noticed the difference between those Randy of today and that Randy? That Randy has a lot more hair. He has hair.
Exactly.
I never would have guessed that was Randy DeLap.
That's a 78 haircut he's sporting there, too.
And that's still the old Randy DeLap smile.
As we walk down this wall here, you're going to see some really neat antique farm implements. And these go really far back. There's an old apple cider maker right there. These are tobacco tools. There's an actual hand of tobacco. And, you know, who could guess how old that is? Probably decades old. The spiking tools, spearing tools. Here's some cotton picking equipment. These are chicken feeders. That's where you put the chicken feed.
Yeah.
And this is the lamp where the little baby chicks stayed, with a lamp hanging there so they wouldn't freeze on a cold night.
I thought that's where you put a big Christmas tree. Looks like a Christmas tree stand.
Exactly. Hay equipment here where you pull the loose hay up in the barns, hay hooks, planters for planting your garden.
Was it? This is a pea planter.
Pea planter. You just stuck it in the ground and you put your foot on it and it put out one seed at a time.
Oh, okay.
There's a cotton sack back here. Some more hay equipment, a scythe. That's a triple tree right there. You hook 3 different horses to it. You could pull a pretty good sized plow with that.
They're side by side.
Side by side, exactly. There's a corn sheller, a real old wheelbarrow. That's Haynes. That's what you put around the horse's neck with a collar. From the hook, be hooked to that and pull. These are single trees, really large cross-cut saws. Again, some nice mule hames. These are brass. These were uptown. That's what you drove to church in. Mm-hmm. That's kind of special.
That's fun to go to meeting.
Exactly.
That's what I was just going to say, but you beat me to that.
Old scales, more tongs. Again, a corn sheller. This is a sausage mill right here.
What's a sausage mill do, Dr. Beasley?
A sausage mill, you put the different cuts of the hog in there. And as you crank that thing, that would kind of grind it and compress it and put it out into the sack. You held your sausage back. Okay, as we move on down here, I want to show you something here. This is a real large rendering pot for making lard. The hog parts were dropped into that with a real hot wood fire underneath, and the lard was rendered or released, and it was scraped off. Of course, this is what they cooked with. This is the sheep shearing exhibit. That's the bag that holds the wool. This is an old pair of sheep shears. See the gears? There's the hand shears that you clip the sheep with. Sheep bell. These are instruments for doctoring sheep, sick sheep. We gave them pills with that. And kind of coincidental, I guess, for the time, at least that we're living in right now. There's a book right there on diseases of sheep. And it just happens to be open to a very interesting sheep disease.
What might that be, Dr. Beasley?
Anthrax. Is that coincidental or what?
Really?
Yeah.
But now a person couldn't catch anthrax from a sheep, could they?
Yes.
They could.
One of the common names for anthrax is wool sorter's disease. The people that sorted the wool could actually pick up the anthrax spore and get the inhalation type from that. So this area right in here has some interesting articles that relate to the old dairy industry of years gone by. This is an actual Borden milk can. These were 10-gallon milk cans that the farmer put the cow's milk in. It was brought by truck to this very plant where it was converted to cheese or butter.
Well, now let me tell you something first about that. Let me get a little personal history here. When I was a child, my father drove a milk truck. And I remember seeing him pick those cans up full of milk off the ground and swing them up into the truck. I don't know how he did it.
He had a strong back.
He had to have.
What did he do with the cans then, with the milk in them?
Then he picked them up at the farms, and then he brought them over here to this plant.
Okay. He didn't deliver milk to people's
No.
houses.
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, there were a lot of milk trucks for 500 or 600 grade B dairies in this county. All the cowbells.
That's how it all starts. You got to ring the bell to get the cow to get the milk.
That's where you knew where she was hidden out in the woods where you could milk her. Stool that you milked her from, milk pail over there, another milk can there, cream separator where you took the cream off to make coffee and ice cream. Here's an interesting exhibit here that came from one of the old fire departments. This is not horse-drawn, it's people-drawn. You can see the handles right here where 3 or 4 or 5 firemen would actually pull that.
That's
little
heavy.
thing. Very heavy. They would pull that to the fire.
Now is this a canoe?
Well, it looks like a canoe. Marie, it's actually not a canoe.
Not a good question. No, it's a good question, Marie.
That's a salt box. A salt box is designed to take the hog carcass, cut up meat. They salted it really well, put salt all in the bottom of that, started packing the meat, covering it with salt, more meat, more salt, and it stayed that way for a year or two.
Oh.
Salt is a great preservative, and this is made, read that, Gary.
I will. That was interesting. This salt box was used by the Witt family of Lincoln County. Made from, now listen to this, Marie, made from a poplar tree which started growing in 1456. It was cut in 1809. The salt box is on loan from Miss Jimmy Thompson. Now, 1456.
Can you? Oh, I
That's
want to touch
historical
that.
part.
Now that is old. I thought you were old, but this is old.
Now, Dr. Beasley, this looks like just stumps or trees, pieces of trees. What is this?
You're exactly right. They are hollow trees. This is the honeybee exhibit, part of our museum. These hollow trees were brought here because at one time they had wild honey colonies in them and had some honeycombs. Of course, these are the hives that they now use. This is all beekeeping equipment. The supers and the hat over there to keep the bees from getting it to your eyes. The bee gloves. Here's a display that's actually got honey in the hives. Books on beekeeping. Don Templeton's one of the beekeepers extraordinary in our county, and he donated a lot of these.
He still does that, doesn't he?
Still does it, as well as Miss Margaret Jennings. She still has beehives. I have beehives on my farm. They're really important because they pollinate our clover and our fruit and our vegetables and make our crops more productive.
Not to mention that good honey.
That's
Exactly.
right. What kind of bees do I have in my barn, Dr. Beasley, that like to get into the wood and drill holes into the wood?
Wood bees, and they're really destructive. They really take a lot of
Yeah, the sawdust comes down. How do you get rid of those? I know this is not a museum show, but this is kind of like a home improvement show, too.
Call the county agent.
County agent, okay.
He'll tell you.
This is an interesting looking, not too modern looking, but at the same time not too old looking.
No,
the fire truck.
Okay. Good so far. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this fire truck?
Well, I'm not too sure that I know a lot about it. I think it's a working fire truck. I think they can take it out if they need to, because there's a door that's in front of it. So I think everything still works, but I guess they've retired it for just a little while.
Well, and what you probably don't know about this fire truck, this is Maud.
Maud.
Maud the fire truck.
Maud the fire truck.
You can.
Now, this is an interesting area.
Okay,
Here,
we're
Ferris.
going to walk right through the middle of these farm implements. These are all the ancient horse-drawn tools that were used for so many years in our county. You know, the Bible says that man was put on this earth to work and toil by the sweat of his brow. You're looking at the tools that were designed to bring this about. The folks that ran these mule-drawn implements were really hard-working folks. They didn't have to worry about being overweight.
Obviously. Now this looks really, really old here. This is
1810, and that's almost a completely wooden plow. And I would say at one time that one was probably pulled with oxen. This is a cultivator. Notice the long tongue where the horse or mule stock went on each side. Mule-drawn disc. Horse-drawn corn planter. Horse-drawn mower. Horse-drawn rake. These are all plows and planters for planting cotton or corn. And over here on the left side, this wall that's just covered with old-time hand tools. They go back to the beginning of the county probably. You know, you got all the old type awls and sanders and all the different things that they worked wood with. Old saw blades from the sawmills, crosscut saw. That's an old implement seat. Talk about a cushioned seat. Now, how would you like to ride that behind a pair of mules from daylight to dark? And that's the way those folks work back then.
That'd make their bottoms real tough after all that time.
This seems like a lot of blisters and sores and.
And I don't see any Black & Decker power screwdrivers.
No.
For sure. And again, all of these items were donated by some really generous people, and that's what's made this museum so one of a kind.
Wow. Now this is a great room. Where are we, Dr. Beasley?
Gary, I don't know about you and Marie, but I'm a little bit nervous standing up here because typically this stage is filled with the carriage house players who are professional actors, and I'm not, so I don't feel comfortable at all standing up here. The carriage house players, we're very happy to have a partnership with them in this museum. They have several plays that they hold throughout the year, fill the tables up usually. Some of them are combined with dessert or something like that. Not just the carriage house players, but this auditorium is used quite extensively for weddings. One of my sons was married in here. Many wedding receptions are held in here, class reunions, some industrial Christmas parties, lots of different events. Some great food has been served in here.
So this is really a multi-purpose room and it's really a great size room.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the Clean Gala will be held here next year in March, so we're excited about coming here. It's a great room.
It is. You notice the really professional lighting system that we have in here, which was provided by the carriage house players. We're most appreciative for that.
That lighting makes us all look good too.
I don't know.
Well, we've ended our tour of the museum here in the lobby area, and it's a very interesting room, Dr. Beasley.
Yes, it is. If you look right behind you, this is a unique wall. And what this wall represents is a replication of the modern paint shop, which Mrs. Lacey Pitt, she happened to have gone to church with me. I knew her well. What a sweet, kind lady she was. But she was a real business person that ran a neat paint shop for probably some 40 years as a widow. Her husband had been the principal of the high school here for about 30 years. And her family, her son, was touched enough by this museum to pick this spot to make a rather considerable donation, and he's responsible for this room and this wall, and it's pretty neat.
It's an interesting room. The wall is a great touch, but the room itself is really nice.
It is.
I think this would probably be a good time for me to certainly thank you all for coming down and giving us this coverage. We hope we've stimulated some people that haven't been to our museum to come and visit it, and we left a lot of things off.
We did.
It's going to surprise them when they come, but this is really something to see. We were really proud of it. And it's been brought about through the work of so many people since about 1985 when the dream came true. The building was donated by the Carters, and then lots of different people worked really hard to make this what it is. And then so many people in the city and the county gave of their family possessions, the historical artifacts that they'd owned for years and years, brought them into our museum where everybody could enjoy them. And what a study in unselfishness I think that was. So we have so many people to thank, but we really want to invite everybody to come and enjoy our museum.
Now, Dr. Beasley, is it open all the time? Can anyone come to the museum at any time?
It's open on 2 days of the week, Thursday and Saturday from 11:30 to 4:30, and we're closed during the winter months. We're open anytime any school group wants a special showing, or any tourist group, a bus tour or anything comes through, any industrial group, anybody that the chamber wants to bring in specially. We have lots of volunteers that sit during these hours or make the special presentations, and we're open just about any time for special needs.
Well, Dr. Beasley, this has been a great tour. You know, I've learned a lot. I'm sure Marie has. Of course, as we know, some of the things we have seen, she lived during those times. But on a serious note, we want to thank you for your time. You're extremely knowledgeable about what we have in this museum. It is it's a treasure. It's a hidden treasure that we hope more people will take advantage of. And on behalf of my co-host, who most of the time tries to take over the show, but on behalf of Marie Caldwell and myself, we want to thank you for watching our segment on the Lincoln County Museum on Hometown
USA. And we'll see you next time on Hometown USA, brought to you by the Fayetteville Electric System.